Okay, picture this. It's the summer of 2025. Caitlin Clark is everywhere. We're talking billboards, press runs, merch mock-ups, and sneaker leaks that have fans zooming in on every pixel. Nike finally reveals what we've all been waiting for. Her own signature brand. Not just a shoe, but a full-blown Caitlin Clark collection. And there it is. That sharp, bold double C logo.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Clean, confident, timeless. It drops across social media like a bomb. SportsCenter, Complex, Espnu, TikTok. Everybody's reposting. The internet goes wild. Clark Nation's in a frenzy. Sneakerheads are already planning the resell. Sports blogs call it the biggest launch in women's sports since Serena's Nike line. This isn't a collab. This is history. The kind that cements an athlete's legacy and flips the industry on its head. But just as the hype hits its peak, boom, a cold splash of reality. The 2026 WNBA season might not happen at all. Why? Because the league's collective bargaining agreement, the CBA that holds the entire league together, is on the verge of exploding. Yep. While fans are drooling over Clark's first signature shoes, WNBA insiders are sending out warnings like flares. There's an October 31st deadline, and both the league and the players are miles apart. Like, can't even agree on the basics apart. We're talking money, health, travel, resources, respect. And the players? They're done being patient. 4 months now, the WNBA, led by a new generation of outspoken stars like Breanna Stewart, Aya Wilson, Nafisa Collier, has been pushing hard for a deal that actually reflects the league's rising value. And make no mistake, that value is real. Record TV numbers, sold-out games, Caitlin Clark turning arenas into Super Bowl Sundays. And then there's the $2 billion media rights deal, the expansion fees, the corporate partnerships, the merch boom. Everything's up, except the players' cut. Because while the league's making money moves, the women actually putting on the jersey, still flying commercial, still squeezing into tight rosters, still getting nickel and dimed on contracts. So yeah, tensions are high, and the players aren't bluffing. They want real revenue sharing, full charter travel, expanded rosters, better maternity benefits, a legitimate seat at the table as the league booms into the next decade. And the league? So far, it's been all shrugs and stall tactics. That's why everyone's now eyeing October 31st like it's doomsday. Because if a deal doesn't get done by Halloween, the 2026 WNBA season could be canceled. Not delayed, not shortened, gone. Let that sink in. Right when women's basketball is at its peak. Right when Caitlin Clark is becoming a global brand. Right when fans are finally showing up in droves. The league is threatening to fall into the same trap as every other pro sports league before it. Greed at the top, burnout at the bottom. And before you say, well, that's how business works, let's make one thing clear. This isn't some unreasonable player uprising. These athletes are asking for a fair share of what they helped create. You think Caitlin Clark pulled those record ratings alone? You think those highlight reels didn't include defensive stops from Collier or clutch threes from Mitchell? You think the sold-out stadiums are only about star power? This game is team-built, player-driven, grit, sweat, sacrifice, all in a league that's historically treated their athletes like they're lucky to be here. Well, the players aren't buying that anymore. They know their worth, and they're ready to walk away if they don't get it. So now we're in this bizarre, high-stakes paradox. On one hand, Caitlin Clark's brand is going nuclear. The shoes, the jerseys, the endorsements, it's all bigger than anyone expected. She's becoming what Steph Curry was for the NBA in 2015, a cultural reset. On the other, the very league she's supposed to lead into the future might not exist next season. And if you don't think that matters, think again. This CBA isn't just a contract. It's a line in the sand. It's about whether the WNBA wants to be a serious, player-first, modern league, or just a clout-chasing brand that chokes when it's time to pay up. It's not just about Caitlin Clark getting a logo. It's about whether the 12th woman on the bench has a sustainable career, whether rookies can afford to live in the cities they're drafted to, whether veterans can have kids without worrying about losing their spot. Meanwhile, the league keeps selling growth like a catchphrase. More fans than ever. More teams coming in 2026. Toronto, Portland, worldwide expansion. Cool. But none of that means anything without a CBA. No deal, no teams, no season, no future. And fans are starting to notice. You're seeing the shift online. People are no longer just debating stats and trades. They're talking about equity, contracts, and leadership. Fans are organizing, tweeting at team owners, demanding players with messages of support. Because this isn't just about basketball anymore. This is about what happens when women finally start to demand what they've earned, and the people in charge flinch. So where does Caitlin Clark fit into all this? That's the wild part. She's both the reason the league is booming, and the leverage players are now holding over the WNBA's head. Because if there's no season next year, that shiny Nike campaign, that CC logo drop, that massive 2026 rollout, all of it stalls. And for once, the league would be the one paying the price, not the players. That's the power shift. That's the moment. Caitlin Clark is the biggest thing to hit the W since Diana Taurasi. But the league can't build a billion-dollar brand on her back while lowballing the rest of the workforce. And players know it. That's why they're holding the line. That's why the October 31st deadline matters. Because they're not just fighting for bonuses. They're fighting for the right to exist in a league that doesn't exploit them while pretending to celebrate them. And fans? They need to pick a side. Not just with retweets and merch purchases. With real engagement. Follow the union. Learn the facts. Ask the hard questions. This is the kind of pivotal, behind-the-scenes moment that will define the next decade of women's basketball. Will the WNBA rise to meet the moment? Or will it crumble under the weight of its own short-sightedness? Because the league is at a crossroads. One path leads to a modern, inclusive, powerful sports ecosystem where players thrive and fans win. The other leads to a shutdown, a fractured fan base, and a whole lot of broken promises. And Caitlin Clark's signature drop? It might be the hottest shoe on the planet next year. Or it might become a symbol of what could have been. So as October 31st looms, ask yourself, are you watching a league in motion or a league on the brink? Let us know in the comments where you stand. Are the players making the right call by pushing this hard? Is the WNBA underestimating the moment? And what would you do if the 2026 season disappears before your new CCs even arrive? Hit subscribe, because this story, it's just getting started. And if there's no season next year, we'll still be courtside, breaking every last piece of it down. Let's keep it all the way real. The WNBA is standing at the edge of its biggest opportunity and its biggest disaster at the same time. On one side, you've got Caitlin Clark turning into a global brand right before our eyes. She's the first woman in years to drop a signature shoe with Nike that's not just a collab. It's a full-on line. From the custom CC logo to exclusive colorways, to performance gear and fashion-forward drops, she's not just influencing the culture. She's becoming the culture. On the other side, the WNBA might not even exist next season to showcase it. That's the part that feels surreal. How do you fumble the bag this hard when the bag is literally sitting in your lap? When the spotlight is finally here? When the growth is real? When people care? And the answer, of course, is greed. Ego. And the age-old mistake every sports league makes at some point. Undervaluing the labor that built the foundation. Caitlin Clark may be the headline, but she's not the whole story. She's the product of years, decades, of groundwork laid by players who didn't have logos, who didn't have signature shoes, who flew commercial and played back-to-backs and rehabbed injuries in silence. The players pushing for this new CBA, they're not demanding luxury. They're demanding dignity. Charter flights aren't a flex. They're a baseline safety issue. Revenue sharing isn't entitlement. It's equity. Expanding rosters doesn't mean blowing up payroll. It means not forcing teams to cut competent players every time someone tweaks a knee. Let's talk specifics, because this isn't a vague standoff. The WNBA Players Association came with receipts. They want 50-50 revenue sharing like the NBA has. Currently, the W gives players less than 20%. And it's not because the league can't afford more. It's because it's never been forced to. Until now. They want full charter travel. Not as a special perk. Not just for the top 3 teams. For everyone. Period. They want increased salaries, especially for veterans who have been underpaid for years while rookies enter the league with bigger nil deals than their pro contracts. And they want the league to stop acting like these things are radical ideas. Because they're not. They're normal. The NBA has them. The NHL has them. The MLB, NFL, all of them have foundational CBAs that recognize player power and protect long-term success. And yet here we are, in the middle of a women's sports renaissance, with Caitlin Clark, Aya Wilson, Breanna Stewart, and a league of stars at the peak of their cultural power. And the WNBA is threatening to stop everything over. What? A little more money? A little more autonomy? A little more respect? That's not just short-sighted. That's insulting. And fans? Oh, we feel it. We're not dumb. We see what's happening. The tension isn't subtle anymore. Every post from the league feels forced. Every time the W tries to post some sanitized highlight or here for her campaign, it's met with comments like, pay them, negotiate the CBA. Don't sell me empowerment if you won't even give them charter flights. The brand is breaking because you cannot keep selling progress while blocking it behind closed doors. And the Caitlin Clark launch? It's now part of that tension. Because if you think Nike's not watching the CBA situation closely, think again. If you think expansion cities like Toronto and Portland are ready to invest millions without knowing if there'll be a 2026 season, think again. Everything's at stake, including Clark's entire brand rollout. And yes, her new collection is going to be huge. The CC logo is sleek, minimalist, and personal. There are whispers of player exclusives, kid sizes, colorways inspired by her Iowa years and her Fever transition. Her warm-up gear is already being dubbed the next tech fleece. It's that serious. But what good is a new shoe if there's no court to wear it on? You think fans are going to line up for the Clark ones if she's sitting out a season in protest? You think Nike wants to run ads about changing the game while the actual league is paused over basic workplace protections? You think ESPN wants to run highlight reels of practice scrimmages and podcast interviews instead of primetime games? It's chaos, silent chaos, and it's completely avoidable. Because here's the part that really twists the knife. The money is there. The league isn't broke. The media deals are locked in. Corporate partners are drooling over the numbers Caitlin Clark brings in. Fans are finally watching every team, not just the top seeds. This should be the time when the league doubles down on its growth, when it rewards players, expands franchises, and finally puts its foot on the gas. But instead, we're staring down a possible work stoppage because the league won't budge. Not until they're forced to. And the players? They've drawn their line. They're not bluffing. They're not scared. They've got the public behind them. They've got momentum. And they've got Caitlin Clark. Maybe not directly. She's not the one posting union memos or speaking at press conferences. Yet. But her presence in the league is the biggest leverage these negotiations have ever had. Because if you cancel a season now, if you stall the league right as her brand hits maximum liftoff, if you silence this generation of stars just as they're breaking into the mainstream, that stain will not wash off. Not for the fans, not for the players, and definitely not for the league's legacy. So what happens next? We wait. We pressure. We watch that October 31st deadline like it's the season opener, the playoffs, and the draft combined. Because if there's no deal by then, it's a shutdown. The most anticipated WNBA season in history gone. Caitlin Clark's first full brand rollout paused. Expansion cities and investors back to the sidelines. And the league's golden opportunity to become the future of women's sports? Wasted. But if the league gets it right, if they wake up, come to the table, meet the moment, and lock in a CBA that reflects the player's value, then everything changes. The Clark brand explodes. The league gets deeper, richer, more respected. Players stay. Rookies rise. Veterans thrive. And fans? We get the WNBA we deserve. So let's not act like this is a small footnote. This is the climax of everything the W has been working toward. This is the make-or-break moment. Okay, so if you've made it this far, you already know the stakes. October 31st isn't just a date. It's a ticking time bomb. A fuse burning beneath the glossy surface of one of the most exciting moments in women's sports history. But what happens if that fuse runs out? Let's walk it through. Because while everyone's focused on Caitlin Clark's shiny new Nike deal, there's an entire league behind her that could be swallowed up by silence. No games, no camps, no draft buzz, no Caitlin versus Angel, no Portland or Toronto expansion announcements, no rise, no next, just nothing. And here's the kicker. Nothing hurts more than wasted momentum. Because what the WNBA has right now isn't just hype. It's real energy. It's people who've never watched a W game in their lives suddenly knowing players by name. It's jersey sales popping off. It's full arenas and viral highlights and a fan base that actually cares. And if you follow the W for any amount of time, you know how rare that used to be. Remember when you could get front row seats for $15? When you had to dig through 4 submenus to find a live stream? When no one outside of Twitter was talking about the league unless it was the finals? That era is over. Or at least, it should be. But if this lockout happens, if the league doesn't get the CBA locked in, we're right back there. Back to silence. Back to fans drifting off. Back to sponsors pulling out. Back to, oh wait, the WNBA is still a thing. Energy. And that's where the tragedy lies. Because this was the moment the league could have shown up loud. Not just for Caitlin Clark, but for every player who built this movement from the hardwood up. This was the moment to say, we're not just here to be seen. We're here to be respected. And now, it's all being threatened by boardroom egos and stalling tactics. Let's talk about what happens if the season does get canceled. It's not just a break. It's a rupture. Players like Aya Wilson, in their prime, sidelined. Rookie contracts frozen. Player momentum halted. Athletes with peak visibility suddenly forced into limbo. No games means no film, no development, no endorsements, no rhythm. You know what happens when sports stars disappear from the spotlight for a year? Fans move on. Casual viewers, the ones the league just worked so hard to convert, start checking out. No games this year? Guess I'll catch it when it's back. And you know how that ends. It's not a pause. It's a loss of money, of trust, of presence. And for Caitlin Clark, the timing could not be worse. This is her launch pad, her LeBron rookie moment, her Serena glow-up era, the moment where the world starts seeing her not just as a star, but as a phenomenon, the player who changed women's basketball for good. She's got the game. She's got the logo. She's got the platform. But a canceled season? That stops everything. The media machine halts. The rollout delays. The product drops dry up. And the narrative shifts from Caitlin Clark is redefining the WNBA to Caitlin Clark. What happened? Unfair? Completely. But this is how the industry works. It's brutal. It's fast. And it never waits. Now, let's be clear. Caitlin Clark isn't going to vanish. She's too big to fade completely. But you know what is fade? Momentum. And for a league that's always had to fight twice as hard for half the spotlight, losing momentum is lethal. It's not just about this season. It's about the entire future. You think expansion cities are going to keep lining up with million-dollar bids if the league can't guarantee labor peace? You think media companies are going to keep paying top dollar for a league that's at war with its own players? You think 13-year-old girls dreaming of playing pro are going to feel inspired by a system that tells them, hey, congrats on making it, but if you speak up, you're benched. If you ask for more, we'll cancel the season. Nah, this is a message moment. Whatever happens by October 31st will echo. It'll tell every future WNBA player what the league truly values. It'll tell every sponsor what kind of institution they're aligning with. And it'll tell every fan whether their support actually matters. Because here's the truth. You can't build a player-driven league while trying to silence the players. You can't celebrate women's empowerment in your promos while dragging your feet in contract negotiations. You can't wear the t-shirts, post the hashtags, and book the ESPN specials if, behind the scenes, you're telling players they're not worth investing in. And the W players know that. That's why they're not budging. They've tasted visibility. They've earned leverage. They've built this thing from the ground up, and They're not about to let the league cash in on their work while they keep grinding on coach buses and 2-year deals with zero guarantees. This isn't just business. This is a reckoning. So let's imagine the best-case scenario. Let's say the league wakes up. They stop playing PR games. They come to the table, and they say, you know what? You're right. Let's build something real. They agree to fair revenue sharing, full travel upgrades, expanded team support, a long-term plan that treats players as partners, not just employees. What happens then? Caitlin Clark launches the biggest signature line in W history, with a league fully behind her. Expansion explodes. Toronto, Portland, maybe even Philly and Nashville next. Cities begging for a team get one. New jobs, new fans, new money. Players like Wilson, Collier, Stewart, they become legends. Not just because they're great on the court, but because they helped usher in a new model for women's pro sports. Rookies see a path forward. Not a grind, but a career. And fans? Fans win everything. More access, more stories, more games, more drama, more heart. That's what's on the line. This isn't just about Caitlin Clark's shoes. This is about changing everything. So now it's up to the league. You got the spotlight. You got the audience. You got the athletes. Don't fumble it. Don't let this become another what could have been moment in women's sports. Because history is watching. So are we. And if you cancel this season, it won't be forgotten. Because the fans aren't just watching games anymore. We're watching you.